Previously on the pod, past, present and future Jen.
They're going to apply for it. Whereas a man will probably tick 2 things out of the 20 things on the job spec, still apply for it and basically learn on the job.
Always be nice to your colleagues because you never know when you're going to need them. I'm not doing that. I'm a feminist. I mean, when I was growing up, feminism was one of those, it was like, nowhere. I'm not doing that. That's a man's job. Just bent your bra and walked around without any bra. Always wanted to have daughters. So as a feminist, you can have two. At the time, Margaret Thatcher, of course, was the first ever, like we all know now, Prime Minister. I always encouraged them that giving birth is actually such a privilege that God gives us. It's so sad that we're in 2020 and we are still, struggling in a way. I think it's to do with how we're brought up, what aspirations we get. It's about how you women bring up your sons and stuff like that. It was my intention to bring up my daughters not to be like me. I deliberately called her that because it was after Deborah in the Bible, Deborah being, of course, the warrior. And when I was growing up, a woman could not be outspoken and stuff. You won't get a husband to marry, you won't. I was growing up, a woman could not be outspoken and stuff. You won't get a husband to marry, you won't, And now, I don't even know, because I think that, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of men, even in this day and age, feel very threatened by females who are women who are vocal. And so they start to recoil and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
I like the point, the last point you just made. I think it answered one of the questions I feel like you got the question in advance and you just received it.
No, I didn't actually look at them. If you asked me, and I decided not to look at it, so I didn't get to sound.
Look at that. I was going to ask you, did you make any secret intentional decisions to encourage her? And the intentional decision you made, number one, the name you gave her, but most importantly, trying to instill what you weren't able to have, so being vocal and being outspoken. So you're on track. Well done.
But I think that it is, in terms of culturally speaking, you were saying that I think culturally speaking, as a Ghanaian, women are not usually like that. And so it's difficult to raise your children like. So I always find that if I'm in a environment where there are lots of Ghanaians and we're communicating or stuff like that, then the people that are observing find it, especially when my girls were younger, people would be like, oh, they're so rude, they're this, they're that, you don't bring them up properly and stuff like that. So it's quite difficult. And, if we go to Ghana or sometimes we're in places, people just look down at you, like, make you feel like, well, you're not, you haven't got a handle on them. Yeah. And I think that's a cultural thing.
Yeah, I think the cultural thing, I think it makes it slightly harder. And I remember, I think I even told, I don't know who I told, I think I probably told you this when I was conversing with my uncle, and he was saying that we shouldn't achieve too much, because I'm one of 3 girls, and my uncle was like, you shouldn't achieve too much, or else when men find out you have so much, they get turned off, and then they kind of turn away, and you won't find a husband because you have a car and you have a house and you have this. And I was like,
I mean, definitely when I was growing up, that was the 100% the narrative, and I heard that so much. It was normal, and I think I believed it. So when I was growing up in Ghana, as a girl, you could not be, no matter what you do, don't become a graduate, because if you're a graduate, you won't get a husband to marry. And if you were tall, that's another problem as well.
At this rate.
you're minus, So it was always like, I mean, I would have spoken in truth.
You can't. Go ahead. Because
I don't want to cut anybody off that. But it's like, what? No. Whatever you do not marry a graduate, because she will not cook for you, neither will she clean for you, and she will answer back, she'll be rude to you and blah, blah, blah. So you could never marry a graduate. You could not marry, and somebody even who drove. I remember when I was younger, growing up in Ghana, my auntie drove. She had this Peugeot at the time, for I don't know if you've ever seen that car before. It's got like thing at the back. Anyway, this my auntie, when she's coming down the road, I mean, everybody knew she drove like, and everybody in that area knew her, and they were like, oh, that woman, she's a man. she's like, you know, even to drive and stuff like that. Most women were not driving and stuff like that. So if you were a graduate, then you would want to drive and you'd want to, you know. And in my family, even though I come from my father's side, very educated, highly educated family, loads of lawyers and doctor of this and this and that and that. I was the first female in my family to hold a university degree. I'm in my 50s now. But I'm pleased to say that after me, all my cousins and, you know, the young ladies, everybody has got, yeah.
But what do you think that is though? Is that a fear thing? I'm trying to understand it to this day. Is it a thing where I don't know. I think I'll refer back to the culture side of things. I can't speak for what's happening here. But do you think it's a thing where they're scared that there'll be some sort of equality, or?
Yeah, definitely they're scared because the thing is, when culturally speaking, you want your son to marry somebody that you know would be submissive, you know, somebody that, you know, you don't want to go to your son's house and see that his wife is, I think what Ghanaians hate the most, and a lot of the tendencies, a lot of Ghanaian couples that would marry in this country and go back to settle back home, majority of them, their marriages would end in divorce. And the reason being that, you know, when you live in this country, it's quite equal. You know, you come from work, you know, the guy will be there early, so he'll cook or clean, whatever. But when you go back home, the dynamics are different. So you know, the idea is that the man comes home, he's got his fufu and soup and blah, blah, blah. His wife has served him and wash in her. So when the family come and then they see like the guy is, what are you doing? You're holding the baby, changing his nappy. Why? Or why? And they'll say things like, why are you washing her pants? And stuff like that. It's disgraceful. So as soon as the mom comes to see, or his sister comes to see, his cousin, whoever, they will break that marriage because they feel embarrassed and they feel like you are belittling their treasure, you know, their royalty. So it does, you know, so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that kind of thing that people are worried and they're ashamed to see, you know, that in their son's household. So the marriage will have to go. So even if they don't break it up, they will find him another wife, you know.
Yeah. It's such a shame that I think the reason why I've struggled to understand this all my life is probably because of what I've seen my dad do. So I don't know if they learned, well, my dad is one of 11 boys anyway, so there weren't any girls in the house, and they were brought up as boys and girls. So essentially he's brought us up as girls and boys. So when I hear things like that, I'm just like, I mean, my dad used to braid my hair when my mom couldn't braid my hair because she had to do it.
Wow, that's good.
You know what I mean? So it's never been a thing. So when I hear men not being able to cook rice, I'm like, so how are you going to survive? But hey, that's another conversation for another day. Okay, so let's fast forward to...
Yeah, well, that's another thing in my house because my son doesn't know how to cook rice. And the girls are always saying, see, Mom, you need to do something.
You know what? At least he's still got time, because I feel like the thing here is, should he go to university, he will learn.
This is the story in our house. We always tell him, when you go to university,
he'll come back with recipes. I'm telling you, some made up recipes that will only make sense to him. So you just wait. However, just give us some basics, you know, so he knows. That's all right. Okay.
He's not going to fry an egg.
Better than nothing. See. Okay, so we need to start wrapping up soon. But before we wrap up, tell us a little bit about your organization that you're doing in church, like what you're doing in Church of the Girls and the Women of Spirit group.
It's a different spirit. Get it right. You're in trouble.
I'm keeping this in the video. Go on. It's natural. Go on.
Yes. So at church we have like a women's ministry. In essence, it's not like a club or anything. Basically, you're female, you're in it, you know. And we call Women of a Different Spirit. And the Lord spoke to me to call it exactly that from the book of Numbers. when it talks about Joshua and Caleb. And God, in blessing Caleb, said, because Caleb is of a different spirit, he'll bless him and stuff like that. So the idea behind it is that the general flaws, quote unquote, that are associated with women, we are of a different spirit. So we don't, kind of operate in those sorts of things. So we are of a different spirit. So women of a different spirit. And the main idea, literally, is to make the woman understand that she is of God and loved of God, and not a second-class citizen in any way, shape, or form to be demeaned or anything like that. And she has equal status and every right to approach the throne of grace. And I mean, not to preach, preacher and all that, but, and I haven't got much time, but I will say this, that when God made Adam, and I always say this, that God is good and everything he does is good. Yeah. So there's no dispute about that. When he makes Adam, that's the only time he kind of concerns himself with what he's made. And he makes a statement, said, it is not good. Yeah. Then he says, it's not good for man to be alone. And then he creates a helper. Yeah. And out we come. How we come is another story. So another time you can ask me to come on, we'll talk about that. But Eve is made, and the name is helper. And the word helper there, another word for it is Ezer. Maybe I haven't pronounced it, but that's where we get Ebenezer from. Okay. And Ebenezer means thus far has the Lord helped us. Now, in scripture, what I found out was that anytime the word help is used where God is concerned, it's Ezer. And the only other time Ezer is used is when Eve is created. Yeah. In God's image as Ezer. In other words, we as women, we walk in God's stead as God. We are in God's image. Do you understand? So we are never, ever second-class citizens. Secondly, another thing is that if you're doing something, and you need help, you need assistance, the person that you're going to ask for the help knows more than you do. That's why you need the person's help. Okay? So if I wanted to, braid my hair, I'm not good at it, I have to get a hairdresser. The hairdresser is my help. The hairdresser is the expert at the hair. So as soon as a hairdresser enters my atmosphere, finished, oh, look how gorgeous I look. Yeah. So in other words, Adam needed help. He gets you and I, we make a better job of it. Okay. And so once a woman enters the space, there's fruitfulness, there's multiplication and all of that. Now somebody listening to me says, oh, but she came and she ate the fruit. Yeah, but both of them did it. And that's one other story, another time again, when God was giving them instructions. Yeah, it was Adam that got the instruction. He came along, he didn't dissimulate it. And when Eve said, let's eat the fruit, Adam should have said, hey, my friend.
He was interested in eating the fruit.
Thank you.
He was keen. He was just waiting for someone to do it before he.
That's right. So anyway, story. So that's what women of a different spirit is, for us to come into God's presence and all of that and do what God has called us. And God has a need. And the other thing as well is that some time back I did a series called Amazing People. And if anybody wants it, if you go on the FCI website, you can order that from Bookshop. But resources. And that Amazing People, one thing I found out was that, and the Amazing People is about people that Jesus commended. Okay. And majority of the people that he commended were women. Okay, so you got women with the issue of blood. They're like a Syrophoenician. I always have to think about it. Woman, Syrophoenician woman, the one that with the crumbs and all that. Then you've got the prostitute, and all of that. So Jesus commended more women than men. And that was even in a time when women were equated to property. Do you understand? And Jesus comes along. If you look in Luke chapter 8, I love one of my favorite scriptures. Luke chapter 8 talks about how Jesus, when he went on ministry, he went with a company of women. They followed him. They were his groupies. And not only did they follow him as just groupie to look good. No. These women were rich. They sponsored his ministry and they made an impact. I tell you what, that's what Women of a Different Spirit is about, and to just worship and all that. And I have something called One Night with the King that we usually have like about quarterly, and I think the title says it all. To spend one night with a king, based on Esther spending one night with a king and her life was transformed. And so we do that where we come to worship, pray, and just have fellowship with the Lord. So these are sort of things. And then we do a lot of charity work. Sometimes we go abroad to do things and stuff like that. We as females and women, we are the ones that can just have movers and shakers and encourage people as well in their careers. Like I've said, women were not in any way second-class citizens. I was trying to encourage young women to be the best person that they can in whichever career. And I personally believe that there's no career that we should not be in. Christians and believers and women. Yes, I know. When I say that, there's no career that should be, close to us. If we want to do, because if we're going to preach the gospel, we have to go everywhere. Sometimes I say to myself, like, there's certain people, like all these celebrities or whatever, who's going to preach the gospel to them? Somebody's got to do it. And how am I going to do it? Because I don't know them. So somebody has to go into that environment, whether they're a makeup artist, whether they're a singer, whether they're a bus driver or they're the groupie or they're a cleaner. However, which way, the gospel has to come somewhat, Yeah,
I like that. This has been good. See? Okay, so people would want to come and visit your church. People want to know more about what you're doing. People want to know what you're doing with Women of a Different Spirit. People want to know more about your international ventures and everything. Where can people find you?
Well, you could go on our website, fcichapel.org. Yeah,
I'll put it at the bottom. Don't worry, I'm not testing you right now.
I suddenly got a bit confused because that's my email address as well. FCI Chapel. We're on Facebook as well, and we are online. If you go on, and I think we're Facebook. We're Different Spirit also has a Facebook page, and so we're the youth, Regen Youth, because the young ladies as well, like. They are my crew, and they've got Instagram and stuff like that you can also follow them.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, parting words. So I want you to give some piece of advice to past gen, to present gen, past gen, those who have children potentially.
My age. I don't know where the time went. You're trying to call me old.
I just said past gen. So past gen, potentially they've started having grandchildren, like babies or whatever. I want you to give them a piece of advice with regards to feminism. And then I also want you to give advice to those who have just started having babies, to the present gen, and also to the future gen, so the 14, 13-year-old Dorothys who are just out there dreaming, wondering what they want to get into. What advice would you give to them, please?
Well, I think to my sisters my age, I want to just encourage them that it's never too late. I mean, naturally, when you're getting older as a woman, you tend to kind of find your feet and kind of get comfortable in your own skin. And I think a lot of women, 40s, mid-40s to early 50s, start to think, well, because not to be morbid, what lies ahead of us is less than what we've had. And so this is the time to actually take stock. What is important to you? What do you actually want to achieve? What legacy are you going to leave? Will your children rise up and call you blessed? And these are the questions only you can answer. What do you want your grandchildren or your children to say about you? So I leave it up to you, sisters. The younger generation, what's that, present gen?
Present.
To the present gen, you are living in a world, yes, we may not have achieved, but we've come a long way, from my end to your end. I look at people, your age, and I am so proud of you all. Like, I think, like I said, I naturally gravitate towards girls. Sounds really wrong, doesn't it? But I love to talk to you guys in the present gen, and a lot of people are quite enthusiastic and stuff. Don't lose your fire. Be purposeful in what you do. Be purposeful in how you raise your children, boys and girls, and know and understand that the sky is your limit, or not even your limit, in essence, of what it is that you want. And they're things that can support you. Look around us, there's a lot of things online and stuff like that. If you want to educate yourself, please feel free. Do what needs to be done, and whichever area you find yourself in, do it to the best of your ability. To the future ones, the younger ones, this is a girl's world. I'm like, I am excited, and a little that I see, these girls are really bossy, and sometimes I hear things like my son will tell me things. And like, maybe this girl did it, and I'm like, oh, wow. So girls, go for it. And again, the same thing. The world is your oyster, and most importantly, put Christ first. He is our firm foundation, and the Lord Jesus loves us. And I always say at church, most of the time when I'm preaching, I will say, God loves women more than men. And I say to guys, sorry, but I actually genuinely believe it. And it's up to the men, I tell them, to believe the other one. But yeah, that's your business. But I genuinely believe that. And I feel like we connect with God more, and generally speaking, women are meant to be more emotional, blah, blah, blah. And I think that God just wired us because we understand him more. We can connect more. We can worship more. And we can push ourselves out more. So when you see Martha and Mary at the cross, and you see Mary Magdalene, the woman with the issue of blood, we're all at his feet, and let's just stay at his feet. And I'm just reminded of, what's her name? The song about Alabaster Box, Cece Winans, Alabaster Box. I love that song. And you say, you don't know the cost of my oil, my alabaster box. It's about worship, about how she gives her all and she stays at his feet. So just stay at his feet and it'll be well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
God bless you. See, that's it. We're done. We're done.
Yeah, good. When I meet you next, when lockdown is over,